Good morning, YouTube. Off to town. Those of you familiar with the channel may be interested in the fact that the hat, securely strapped on, turned out to be, when I went to replace the old one, a $245 item. This only cost $139. All this technology. The blue glasses, $44. It was very expensive the time I failed to apply the rear octopus strap. Oops. And strange as it is to tell, just when I was feeling, ouch, golly gosh, gee darn shucks, why does it cost so much? I went to the tea and coffee shop. They had no newspaper. Therefore, I was perforce obliged to look at the Outback stack of magazines, lifestyle magazines, for the family on the land to figure out which boarding school to which to send their children. And they had a 5-page article explaining that 77 pairs of hands went into making that hat. And that even makes me feel pretty good about the time spent on the side of the road looking for the old one and failing to find it. However, would you look at the sky behind me? We have the opportunity for a blue sky electric motorcycle ride to town. Let's do that. Okay, you should be rolling. In theory, you should have a zero telephoto view of the horizon when I get my hands on the handlebars and start riding. Okay. Kickstand up, and we are rolling. And last time I recharged this, which was about the 26th recharge, was the very first time that the charger actually got to be declaring the battery fully charged by sending out a solid green light, instead of me believing this bike instrument panel or LCD display. And I've been switching the charger off when the charger was still blinking red to say it was working, but the bike had said it was 100% full, because I was a bit wary of overcharging, potentially, because that is, according to, according to everybody who reckons they know, it's overcharging that causes lithium batteries to give you real serious problems. So I've been trying not to overcharge mine. However, last time I got a bit distracted when I got to the sort of the calculated time when I thought the battery should be fully charged, and when the instrument panel said it was fully charged. I was going to give it about another 7 minutes, and I accidentally gave it about another 15 or 20 minutes. And when I stuck my head out to check, after remembering what was going on, behold, the charger was flashing a solid steady green. And today, 2 days after charging, the battery resting voltage was about 0.2 volts higher than it usually has been. Something like 65.2 and 62.9 volts from memory. Thing is, if you only ever occasionally prong the battery, you remember exactly what it was. If you prong it before every ride and after every ride, behold, you've read the bloody thing so many times, you really got to look in the book to see what it was last time. But yeah, I've been planning on doing a camera run next time I had a cloudless horizon, so that you get a blue screen effect and the brightness of the sky fails to blow out the charge coupled device, and you don't wind up with a horribly overexposed sky and a horribly underexposed foreground and midground. Which is one of the perilous problems with a aperture dominant lens system. Or is it aperture? It's a light meter sensitive setup. Okay, so I'm sticking to my protocol, which is on these secondary bitumen roads I try and cruise at 40 kilometres an hour, because 40 kilometres an hour is your sort of maximum efficiency speed cruise range. In theory, 40 k's gives you 70 kilometres on the top 80% of the battery. Haven't tested it, but I have come back from 52 kilometres and arrived home with 33% of the battery, and most of that was done at 40 k's on bitumen roads just like this one. When I set off today, I had 926 kilometres on the odometer, so I've got about 24 hours of actual in-command time on this thing going up the road at this point. 25 hours is where you can get an ultralight licence. I think if you've got an ultralight licence or a gliding certificate, you can get a general aviation licence with about 25 hours taken off the top of your normal instructional time. Got a car in my rear vision mirror. So I'll just kind of pay attention to the riding till it goes past me. Should be coming through about now. About 34 watt hours per kilometre, and we're still at 100%. I think the first time I come along here I used 4% of the battery just getting to the highway. And at this stage I've got no regenerative braking, because that only kicks in when the battery is below 90%. Electric motorcycle chases Tesla. And behold, the Tesla is not regulated by law to 45 kilometres an hour. The motorcycle's doing 49 anyway, despite the regulations. every couple of seconds to see whether I really need to ride over there where it's rough, but I'm close to the fog line. This stretch along here at 500 metres is one of the scarier bits. If I get stuck in the middle, there's nothing I can do except go over to the fog line and hope the drivers don't mind exercising their divided centre line. Wide divided centre line as it's called. Stabilised on 45 for the highway. We're now at 99% battery capacity, 1% to go 4 kilometres. Probably after I establish some figures on this ride, I will go back to the practice of only charging until the screen display on the bike says it's 100%, and that way I figure I'm probably only charging to 90 or 95%, and that's what the battery's really like in times of maximum number of cycles before the battery dies off in the arse. If you charge it 100% all the time, I think that cuts your longevity greatly. So I've heard by other people in other applications like model aircraft. I think the people who fly radio controlled lithium-ion batteries don't like going up above about 90%, and they don't like going below 20. So you get an effective 70% of your battery. But if I was going to go on what I know would be a fairly long ride, like 30 kilometres out, 30 kilometres back. On the one hand, I'd ride at 40 k's, not 45, 47 as it was picked up to then. And that's the other thing, when you're on the top 10% of the battery, or in fact about the top 25%, you got more power, you got more torque, takes less twist grip, and the bike is trying to go faster on you, particularly than what I'm used to. And for the perennial question of isn't it terrifying to be so slow on the highway, well, not really. And if I'm going to fall off a motorbike because I'm not experienced, then falling off at 45 has got to be better than falling off at 100. Then I'm going to have about 1/4 the energy to dissipate before I slide to a stop. I know that means that I'm going to get constantly overtaken, so that means, unlike most motorcyclists who concentrate on what's in front of them and how fast they can get around it, I'm spending most of my time looking in the rear vision mirror trying not to get run over. So I can do that, I can see what's coming, and I can get off the middle of the road, or the middle of the lane, where I am fully entitled to be because I've got a number plate and a headlight and blinker lights and all that sort of shit, stop lights. But I don't want to be that prick who's out there in the middle of the 100 kilometre an hour lane at 45 kilometres an hour insisting on their legal right to be there and getting run over by a truck driver who's got no patience with fucking idiots. So my plan is get out there on the fog line or over the fog line well before anybody gets close enough to be annoyed by me being on the road. And that seems to be being appreciated. And when there's a big, nasty, horrible obstacle like the Death or Glory Bridge, well, we just go cruising along over that if there's nothing in the rear vision mirror, and if there's something in the rear vision mirror that's going to be up my arse while I'm on the bridge, then I just pull off to the side and let them go, and they're wonderfully grateful for that. And if I look in the rear vision mirror and they're right out there on the horizon, I do make a bit of a calculated gamble. Last time I did that, the B double went past my tail light 2.5 seconds after I got off the bridge and out onto the bloody widening abutment. So I've got a fairly good handle on how to judge those sort of distances and accelerations and speeds. And as I said to the radiation oncologist in Coffs Harbour yesterday when he patted me on the head and said, yeah, your CAT scan's okay, we were going to give you a bronchoscope, but we run out of clean bronchoscopes. We'll do that again in 6 months' time. Go away, have fun until November. So the cancer is still dead. But as I said to him, when it comes to being overtaken by a truck going at 100 kilometres an hour, this thing's 68 kilograms bike weight, and it's lower down, so I got 3 times the weight, maybe 75 or 25% closer to the ground. I got 12 times the power, and I'm doing twice the speed of a bicycle, electric bicycle, and I haven't got a pedal, so I'm not constantly totally bloody fatigued while I'm trying to control the thing, while I'm being overtaken. And when I'm being overtaken by machines that are only travelling at twice my speed, not 4 times my speed. So all things being considered, it's probably between 2 and 5 times less scary out here on this thing than it used to be out here on an electric bicycle. Okay, so I'm now out here because someone is coming along. Grey nomads. Another 3 coming after that. Now if I was coming up here at full power on the electric bicycle, pedalling my arse off in about 5th gear, that would have been a whole lot more scary. So we've got here on 9%. We might even get a bit of bloody electric regenerative braking going down here. Normally I do, but normally I've used more than 9% to get it. Roundabouts and swings, you can't use regenerative braking when the battery's nearly full. It's difficult to justify getting too far away from the fog line when you're on top of the hill with a curve behind you. The road surface is vastly nicer out here, as long as there's no one coming behind. Once I got the tyres pumped up to the right pressure, 32 psi, so it's not deforming on the road. It's pretty silent for knobbly tyres. I'm really surprised actually. And there was a bit of a vibrating sheet metal effect going on, but it's actually a complex injection moulded panel that's over the top of the battery. I think I can maybe pad out the places where it should be supported by something elastic in order to stop it from vibrating, but it was just resonating with the motor RPM, probably because know, gearbox or chain or something. But anyway, there was a very tiny slight vibration which was making a noise. It took me a while to track it down, but I did track it. And instead of 15 minutes from my front door to the post office in the motor car, 2-litre engine travelling at 100 kilometres an hour on the highway, 10.5 k's each way, 80 k's for 2.5 kilometres on Yarraford Road each way, because the kangaroos are rough road and narrowness and shit. And about 40 k's on my neighbour's driveway and about 10 or 15 on my superhighway. That's 15 minutes for 15 kilometres front door to post office. The motorbike does it on 24 minutes. And it's, yeah, 25 or 30 k's on my neighbour's driveway, 40 k's on Yarraford Road, 45 k's here on the highway. 89% battery remaining. I think 83% at the post office is the best I've ever done previously. So yeah, the radiation oncologist said it's not a bad thing to be on one of these rather than the electric bicycle. He got a bit of a laugh when we remembered the time I fell off the electric bicycle halfway through the treatment. Apparently that had them all worried at the time. And if you look on the right hand side, somebody has mangled a bloody guidepost. We think it was a lawnmower, because the roadside verges have been freshly mown. Tailwind or not, it sort of feels like it. I haven't got a whole lot of wind in the face, and I can see wind in the grass, so I'm going to guess I've got a tailwind. Yeah, there's a lot in the tree. In fact, 60 kilometres an hour is the limiting design speed for the front forks. You go over 60 kilometres an hour and they can't move fast enough to deal with the incoming shocks. And they'll get out of phase and you'll basically bump up and down until you hurt yourself. Regenerative braking kicked in that time. But we're on 84%. Okay, 942 kilometres on the odometer, 15 kilometres to get here, 24 minutes. 38 kilometres an hour average speed, 49 kilometres an hour maximum. Okay, post office done. 11:15. And last time I went up to what we used to call Martin's Lookout, I discovered they had they put up a thing they call the Skywalk, and it's not actually a skywalk so much as 3 lookouts, but it is pretty good. Compared to what used to be there, and can't see any reason why not take you fellas up there and show it to you. Something new, or new to me. Apparently it's been there for about bloody 6 months, but I hadn't been up there for that long. Either the motor car drivers don't see the motorcycles or they don't care. But it is quite pleasant on the, hypothetical perfect day when there's not much traffic and a blue sky, no horrible weather conditions. And nobody speeding or disobeying the road rules to frighten the shit out of you at the intersection. Is 1 watt hours per kilometre coming up here at this speed. 87 watt hours per kilometre coming up here. At the Australian Celtic Standing Stones. Crofter's Cottage has got its signs out, so at least I can get myself some raisin toast and a cup of coffee. So yeah, sustained high speed going up a hill, and that takes a bit of grunt. And before we get to the Skywalkies, over here there's an enclosure around what used to be the microwave relay tower. It still has got some things going on, but it's not nearly as important as it was. It's got a lot of microwave mobile phone antennas on it. There used to be a larger enclosure up here. Once upon a time, I found a quoll on the outskirts of town. And that quoll had been raiding chickens somewhere in town and got its neck broken on the edge of the road, right on the 60k signs. As they were, now they're 50k signs. But I reckon up here is where the quoll was living. No predators, no dogs, fenced out. Nobody could come and harass it. But it could go out and raid every chicken house in the town. No proof that this is where it was hanging out, but it was found very close to here. I took it to Parks and Wildlife and gave it to them and asked that when they taxidermied it, it be brought back to Glen Innes and stuck in the bloody display in their office, but it was too good for that. It went to Sydney, finished up in a museum somewhere. Because it was an absolutely unmarked adult male quoll, perfect condition. So yeah, there's the little Skywalk. Isn't he cute? Good God. That's Wayne McCarthy, I think. No, somebody else entirely. I wonder how much trouble I'd get into if I was to park the bike on that little skyway there. Probably too much to be worth bothering with. Can I sit there? No. Anyway, I will sort this out. Okay, well when I was a kid up there used to be a red light. I used to turn that red light on as a flashing beacon to announce that the town swimming baths would be open that night from about 6 o'clock to maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Once upon a time, back in the day. We're talking 1960s. Used to be a whole lot of pine trees up there too. This is a handheld pan. Sorry about that, just had to readjust the feet. Acknowledgement of Ngurrabal country. Glen Innes Highlands acknowledges and pays respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We acknowledge the traditional owners where we stand today, the Ngurrabal people, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. So the saying goes, interact with digital display. When you see this image, blah blah, looking west northwest, see the edges of the Maybole volcano. The Emberville volcanic forces created the rich sapphire and gemstone fields that brought mining to our geo region. Emberville boasts a significant tin mining resource and is still being mined today for its rare earth deposits and industries of the future. It's also home to the Emberville Mining and Historical Museum, must see for families, mining historians, rockhounds, fossicus historians and local military enthusiasts. On your travels from Emberville through Torrington, you'll pass through historic Tent Hill and then find the rehabilitated historic Ottery arsenic mine. Here you will also discover our Celtic links to the mining settlers Cornwall, Wales and Emberville and Scottish farmers around Glen Innes. See image of Ottery mine. Discover the First Nations managed Willows and Burraby properties, who offer cultural tours by appointment through the local Glen Innes Aboriginal Lands Council, where there are great fishing and fossicking spots. Kings Plains National Park extends west towards Inverell. Also farms of native grasses for use in food production. Somebody's singing to the music. For use in food production. To the north you can also explore the amazing granite features at Torrington State Conservation Area, including Mystery Face, Thunderbolts Lookout and Westminster Rocks. See also images of micro-liana grass and the willows. Historic town of Glen Innes is full of preserved heritage buildings and stories. From here you can see the Glen Innes Town Hall, Glen Innes High School, Glen Innes Showgrounds, Land of Beauty's History House. Well, you can also see the historic Glen Innes Railway Station, sale yards and racecourse. See image of History House. On the horizon you can see the Sapphire and White Rock wind farms. Glen Innes is one of the best locations for renewable energy in New South Wales. Head west along the Guada Highway and visit our big blade parking area at Lex Ritchie Park for an up-close experience. Go and talk to the Glen Innes Visiter Information Centre. Ottery Mine, Micro-Liana Glass, Willows, History House. Do you notice that happily nowhere in any of that was there any mention of, quote, Celtic country? It took me 25 years to get it through to them that that was a really stupid idea which alienated more people than it pleased or enticed. Anyway, let us go on and have a look at the next viewing platform on the Skywalk. And there's somebody up there, so I might not be able to read it, but I certainly should be able to do a slow pan. Okay, so here is the centre of the... where was I? This is the centre of the three viewing platforms on the Skywalk. Not such a skywalk, you don't go wandering in among the treetops of a rainforest or anything, but Martin's Lookout, as it was known, and I think it probably still is a pretty good spot. Let's do another one of them pans. Come on camera, come up to speed. It's not quite framing by braille, but the horizon lowest, well, the sky lowest to the horizon is the brightest part of the sky, and it's the brightness that confuses the aperture equivalent on the charge couple device. Just change the ankle orientation yet again. So as you can see, it's pretty good. They haven't quite covered 180 degrees of the horizon from here, but of course you can see a bit through the trees out over there, and there's another platform further off to the left. Glen Innes, Valley of the Innes, named after a fellow called Major Innes who put in the first road from Port Macquarie to Armidale. Look out too, and we have exactly the same. Looking south is Stonehenge Reserve, where you'll find the formations of the granite tor fields and the balancing rock. The Ngurrabal word for Glen Innes Gindasian means place of many stones. Gindasian. Well, there you go. So I just learnt that, and I like to think I sort of know something about it. Think about how many words I can say in English and French and Russian, a few in Italian, some Spanish, some German. I really wish we had taught, or been taught, the local language when I was going to school the way they do in New Zealand. They even sing their national anthem, a verse in English and a verse in Maori, and a verse in Pākehā and a verse in Maori. Anyway, means place of many stones. This culturally significant area is a beautifully peaceful place to explore. Further south and west is the historic village of Ben Lomond with its impressive railway heritage and countryside. Yeah, open double brackets. There's a hell of a fight going on at the moment because one faction wants to open up a, quote, rail trail, and by ploughing up the railway lines, which were closed 30 odd years ago and would need extensive refurbishment to bring back online. There's another faction wants to restore the trains, and there are people who think that, well, global warming's coming, the sea level's rising, the coast roads are all vulnerable, maybe it might be a clever idea to restore the trains just so you can maintain a modicum of, you know, like 1890 vintage state and federal government services to the tablelands. But no, there are people who want to pursue a tourism fantasy, and they think someone's going to fly to Australia, fly to Armidale, and then rent a bicycle to ride it to bloody Glen Innes from Armidale, and they're going to buy a cup of coffee along the way and maybe rent a room for the night in Glen Innes when they get here. And therefore we're going to dig up the bloody railway. Impressive railway heritage and countryside. The landscape here is born from lava flows of the Maybole volcano with evidence of ancient glaciation having taken place. See image of balancing rock. From here you can see the crest of the Great Dividing Range. An area to the east forms the headwaters of the Clarence River, and to the west, that would be the Timbara River. To the west, the headwaters of the Gwyde, McIntyre and Severn Rivers. Well, that would be like my front lawn, really, forming the upper reaches of the Murray-Darling system. I'm only 1 kilometre west of the watershed. Heading south to Armidale, you can discover the upland swamps of Little Langothan Nature Reserve, a birdwatcher's paradise with walking tracks and picnic area. Yeah, a bit of history. They once upon a time tried to cut that whole place up into soldier settlers blocks after the First World War. They cleared the existing vegetation, and then it suddenly submerged when the water table rose up and everybody lost their money. At the south end of Glen Innes was a traditional birthing site where significant ceremonies were performed. Yeah, there's still wild native raspberry, stuff called irindi, growing there. It's very good for childbirth procedures. Don't want to get too far into secret women's knowledge, but I'm a registered nurse and I know a bit. Registered nurse, time expired. Nearby is the site of the old flour mill at Craigieburn, a popular picnic spot in the late 1800s. The Glen Innes Skywalk has an elevation of approximately 1,160 metres above sea level. My front gate is 1,110 metres above sea level. So yeah, I'm actually higher than my place. You have to go a long way to get higher than my place. Where you can observe 4 different seasons with beautiful autumnal colours because of all the noxious feral pests that have been introduced by the European colonists. Vibrant spring blossoms and air-conditioned summers with an average maximum temperature of 26 degrees C in Glen Innes. Well, it used to be like that. You can also experience snowfalls from light flurries to occasional heavy coverage in the winter. See image of Old Mill. For information, head to the Glen Innes Visita Information Centre. Okay, what do we got? We got Balancing Rock. We've got the Glen Innes Railway Station, deserted. We've got the Kuruma Cultural Centre, and we've got the Old Mill. Regarding the aforementioned snow flurries, when I was a little kid, in 1964, we got a metre of snow, 3 feet of snow, lay on the ground, took a week to melt. 1974, we got 3 foot of snow, a metre of snow, lay on the ground, took a week to melt. 1984, 3 foot of snow, lay on the ground, took a week to melt. 1994, we got about half a metre of snow, 18 inches, was gone in a couple of days, 3 days. 2004, 4 or 5 inches. 2014, 2 inches. 2024, I doubt we'll get half an inch. And that's our 10-yearly regular heavy snowfall. It was here in 1956. I wasn't born for it, but it was here. I've seen the photos. I played in it in 64. I got stuck in it in 74 and 84. Couldn't get back to boarding school in 74. Couldn't get back to work in Emerville in 84. All roads are cut. People snow skiing to the bloody high school in 74 for the fun of it. 84, my mother drove to school to go to work, came back and got turned sideways on the driveway. Nobody here's used to driving in snow. We don't get snow anymore. You're not going to be able to come to Glen Innes and see the snow because it doesn't frigging happen anymore. Anthropogenic global warming has already changed that. So, there's one more of these to go. It is quite a good day for it, actually. Glen Innes Highland Skywalk. Me being me, we began at Lookout 3. And we have perused Lookout 2, and we have had a pretty good look at Lookout, we're about to have a look at Lookout 1. And yeah, we're not looking to the north at all, so you can't see my place from here. Might as well read it. Discover a new outlook on the Glen Innes Highlands geo-region. Welcome to the Glen Innes Highlands Skywalk, where you can step into a journey through the history, culture and natural wonders found in the heart of the New England tablelands. The platforms and walkway at the top of the Centennial Parklands offer sweeping views over the countryside and town below, while signs and interactive displays share some of the stories behind our unique geo-region. Each of the 3 viewpoints have their own stories to tell and share voices from our local traditional custodians, astronomers, geologists, historians and more. What's a geo-region? Geo-regions are areas that have distinctive geographical characteristics, share landscapes and sites of geological or cultural value. Glen Innes Highlands Skywalk is a geo-trail that helps to provide insights into our local geo-region by guiding visitors on a journey through the local landscape and geology, as well as inspiring a greater understanding of the biodiversity of the natural environment. The Skywalk shares stories of the people who have called this geo-region home, from the first people to walk the land and Gurrabal people to the historic settlers and modern New Englanders. Yeah, that's why I live on a didgeridoo factory. Interactive exploration. Engage with interactive displays. Learn about the spotted-tailed quolls. Already told you a story of that before we got here. Long-nosed potoroos and other local native animals, as well as vibrant flora, including the Gibraltar Range waratahs. Yeah, well, waratah was a lady who wanted to marry one man and she wasn't allowed to. So the man she wanted to marry went away and got killed in a war looking for a lady somewhere else, and she went to a rock called Waratah Rock, and she climbed to the top of Waratah Rock, and when she got to Waratah Rock she burst into tears and she cried herself to death, and the tears from one eye went down one side of the rock and it flowed to the coast, and the tears from the other eye went down the other side of the rock and flowed to the west into the Darling River, and Waratah Rock is the watershed over there. And yeah, that's where the first 2 waratahs in the world ever sprouted, was from the springs at either side of Waratah Rock, and that's what was told to me when I was a little kid going out there by an Aboriginal who was employed by the national parks to tell us such local stories. Yeah? Arthur Chapman was his name. Anyway, visit at night to make the most of the dark sights and listen to the stories of about the river of stars you can see in front of you from both an astronomy and an Aboriginal dreaming experience. To activate the Skywalk, simply scan the QR code, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And there we go. We have 6 more views. The Bald Knob pub in which Black Tommy was shot after he was poisoned by police. Well, he was poisoned in the pub and he jumped out the window and he was shot in the orchard yard. Their plan was to poison him and follow him to his camp and find his secret stash of gold, but he ran out the window, not out the door, and he frightened the cops who were lying in wait for him, and they shot him, and therefore they never found where his gold was. Well, no local stories, you've got to talk to a local. When in Rome, shoot Roman candles. And now we go out through the grove of pine trees, imported noxious feral pests, European weeds. It's this cultural cringe thing going on, you know. The first people who come here, the first thing they did was plant bloody pine trees because they could surround themselves with them and make themselves pretend that they were back in Europe. Orkily-dokily, and slightly west of south, panning around the azimuth, out across the Beardy Flats, out there where Charles Kingsford Smith landed on the Beardy Flats. I think he was on his way from Brisbane to Sydney or Sydney to Brisbane. Had an oil pressure problem, landed there on Neville Fakes' father's farm. So Neville Fakes ran errands and messages on his bicycle while Charlie Kingsford Smith fixed up the Southern Cross, a Fokker 10 tri-motored monoplane made out of plywood. It's VHUSU, something like that. Anyway, at the end of his stay, Charlie of the Kingsford Smith variety took Neville Fakes for a fly in the Southern Cross, and it sort of inspired him to the point where he wrote his high school science project about the physics involved in the leather belts and pulleys running power from one single 420 volt motor in my grandfather's blacksmith shop to all of the lathes and drills and drill presses and grinders and everything all around the workshop. I'll come down and try and get a little bit more. It's difficult, it's difficult. So he wrote that in his bloody science presentation to school when he got into Sydney University, and in about 1936, I think he started studying under Lawrence Wackett at the first course in aeronautical engineering ever been offered by the university in Sydney. Neville Fakes lived down there, grew up there. I've still got a bit of a propeller that he was making under Wackett in the 1930s, sitting with my propeller collection in the toilet. Anyway, let's see what they've got to say. Bog standard acknowledgement of the Ngurrabal. Same digital display. Looking to the east, voila. Actually, by the look of the fence lines, which were surveyed with magnetic east in the 1880s, east would technically be about there. Looking east, you'll have access to our World Heritage Wilderness Area containing Washpool and Gibraltar Range National Parks. Here you will walk among giant trees and discover unique species including Gibraltar Range Waratah, spotted-tailed quolls, palmer wallabies, long-nailed potoroos. These parks are located 65 kilometres east along the Gwydir Highway with over 100 kilometres of bushwalking tracks waiting to be explored, rediscovered, shown off. The east coast of Australia has a complex geology filled with rich basalt and granite soils with native and introducers pastures. Oh, look, they've got a spelling mistake. Should be a D. Introduced pastures. Ah, thank you, Glen Innes Council. Producing prime cattle and fine wool, moo cows and bar lambs. Explore the plateau landforms created by basalt flows and the corresponding shaping of river systems and upland swamps. Observe the geological features such as Demon Fault, magical waterfalls. Oh, I think it's called, I thought it was Devil's Fault, but anyway. Magical waterfalls, extreme escarpments and untouched gullies of cool climate rainforest. Bunjalung, Ngarrabal and Gumbagnara people. Gumbagnira people? Yeah, I've always had trouble pronouncing that one. Good luck with it, yeah? Can you say that? Bunjalung, no problem. Ngarrabal, no problem. Gumbagnira people have traditionally used the area to travel between the coast and the tablelands. The Ngurrabal people have a strong connection and rich cultural history to land shared through stories of ceremonial dreaming tracks, songlines. There are many audio stories to be heard from this viewpoint about local geology, astronomy, the Man River, the legend of the Beardies, and the Chinese mining heritage. Yeah, I've done a few videos on a few of those things. If you want 7 local massacre stories, go into my Warbles in the Wilderness playlist. It rhymes. And we might do one last downward looking telephoto pan to try and show the actual land without that burning bright white band of horizon washing everything out. There we go, the Beardy Flats. Rich black mud into which you will sink to your axles and bog your car if you ever try to drive on it after rain. There's not much down there. Very good for growing pasture grass and stuff like that. And there's a model aircraft aerodrome beside the highway where those of us who, I don't go there because it's too bloody far. I just fly wherever I am when I'm playing with model aircraft. I did mean to come up here with some paper aeroplanes and throw them off here. But when I left my place, there was just a little bit too much wind. So I didn't do that. Yeah, right, we'll try one more pan across the town. Try that. Where have we? There. I think we should get a reasonable view, sort of thing. And if that's 5 power telephoto, we must have been at about 3 or 4. There we go. And for those of my viewers and subscribers who haven't seen this place before, welcome to the Australian standing stones. Or as some people call them, the Australian standing slivers. Australian national cultural cringe, writ large and loud. The creation of a Chamber of Commerce which was terrified that sheep and cattle grazing was going out of fashion. And so, in the late 80s and early 90s, this is what our rates were put into doing. This is kind of an improvement. Sunrise on the longest day of the year, summer solstice, occurs above this stone usually on December 21st. South. Summer sunset. Winter sunset. North. Winter sunrise. Summer sunrise. These 6 stones guide you right to where the sun will rise on the day of the year with the least daylight hours, the shortest day on winter solstice usually on June the 21st. So yeah, they've finally got something to tell people what they were trying to copy. So there we are, looking east. Looking out through the avenue of 6. The 1, the 2, the 3, and 4, the 5, and the 6, and there, in all its glory, not only but also, golly gosh, I just found a pause button malfunction and I don't know how long ago it was. I may have to reshoot this whole video. Such is life, warbles on a lot to YouTube. What I did have in mind was pointing out the cunning contrivance whereby the New South Wales flag and the Australian flag and the Aboriginal flag, land rights flag, are pretty much almost, I'm walking the bearing right now, Australian National, New South Wales State, Aboriginal flag, the tree between the flagpoles, there we go. The sun rises over the New South Wales flagpole on the shortest day of the year. Perfectly aligned with the celebrated Fred Flintstone table and benches. And I don't know what this says about local politics, and it may be entirely coincidental, but that flagpole's lower than that flagpole's lower than that flagpole is lower than that flagpole. That one and that one and that one and that one and that one are all the same height. Those ones get lower as you go, and when you're looking at the centre of the stony display, the Australian national flag and the Australian national land rights flag are both to the left of the New South Wales state parliamentary flag. If that's considered to be the centre line, then the national government is to the left of centre and the Aborigines are way to the left of the national centre of government when looking at Australia on the coldest, shortest day of the year from where the sun rises. But the consensus of opinion is that the people who put this place together sort of did it on the spaghetti thrown against a wall model, and they didn't really know what they were doing. So these coincidences of alignment probably don't mean anything. They might be just as significant as that little spiel portended them to be. But I made it up from whole cloth, plucked out of the sky just while walking around, while attempting to give a short, concise video image of what the standing slivers look like. And yeah, there's another one up there with a flag sticking out of it, and I'm not even going to try and explain that one. And there's more up there on the hill with various little offerings from various Celtic places. But as you can see, these 6 stones on the corridor, yeah, they've got a wide funnel compared to these 4. But the theory was that people were going to jump on their jet plane and fly from Scotland to Glen Innes and look at all this and be impressed and amazed at how faithfully the people who settled down here to replace the Aborigines with their sheep from Europe, how very faithfully we have recreated the landscape and the culture of Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales, Isle of Man, Jersey and Guernsey and Salk. That's what it's all about, expressing our collective Celticness for the tourist trade, trying to entice people to come here and pay money to go up at us because we're so very picturesque and quaint. And they have spent a lot of money on it. Oh, okay, we have yet more explanatory brass plaques in concrete. Perpendicular point, solar noon shadow, tracking the Earth's annual orbit around the Sun, www.gleninneshighlands.com, supported by the Glen Innes Opportunity Shop. It's sponsored. 21 November, 21 January. Okay. So what they're saying is that is the indicating point of the gnomon, and this is a Annalemic midday calendar. 21 October, 21 February, 21 September, spring equinox. 21 March, autumn equinox. 21 August, 21 April. 21 July, 21 May. True South, 21 June, winter solstice. I got to say, this is the most personally impressive thing that I have seen here today. This and the Skywalk, but this is actually a functional Annalemic sundial, although a normal Annalemic sundial would involve having an elliptical dial laid out along here, and it would be the gnomon which moves backwards and forwards so that the point of the gnomon shadow remains on the elliptical dial telling the hours. But it's an Annalemic sundial which only tells midday and the day. Actually, it's an Annalemic calendar. That's what it is, an Annalemic calendar. And of course, you all know that an analemma is what would happen. Yeah, I don't know whether that's actually quite right, what they've done there. See, local apparent time varies according to the obliquity of the ecliptic, right? And the Earth's 23.5 degree axial tilt. So if you make a sundial and you get everything right and you get it perfect for the equinox, then the sundial drifts forward and behind the local mean time. And at midday local apparent time, that pointer is not going to be lined up with there. It will cross over there at some time during that day, and it'll tell you what day in the year it is, but it won't tell you what time. Because an analemma, which is what would happen if you drove a peg in the ground at the end of that shadow at midday local mean time. And to get local mean time, what you're going to have to do is set a chronometer at midday on the spring equinox or the autumnal equinox, and then every day put a peg in the ground at the end of the shadow at midday local mean time. And what you're going to find is that your shadow will drive the peg in at a different point all the way out to here, and then it'll come all the way back down into there, and then it'll turn around to there, and then it'll come all the way back out to there again. And you're going to wind up with a figure 8, and the crossover point on your analemma is always 21 of March and 21 September, and that figure 8 shape is called the equation of time graphically, or graphed equation of time. Yeah, what this is a calendar. It's a solar calendar. It doesn't tell you the time, but it tells you what day you are in the year. When the point of that crosses over, that tells you where you are in the calendar. When to plant, when to harvest, when to seed, when to sow, when to mow. Everything there is a time and a season, and I'm now getting a battery warning, which is really unsurprising when you consider how long I've been making this video. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao, I'm going to go and have some lunch and then ride my electric motorbike some more.